Nintendo owns a ton of different franchises, and they make sequels to plenty of different games that they own. I mean, it's a given. We'll eventually get a Mario sequel, mainline Mario game, Mario Kart, right? Metroid, we just have to wait a long time. The Legend of Zelda, these are givens, but Nintendo has been sleeping on plenty of different franchises that I feel wholeheartedly deserve a sequel. They've been sitting on these for a long time. We haven't seen sequels to these games I'm going to talk about today for years. Some almost 16 years, if not longer. Pretty crazy stuff. So today we're going to be counting down the top 5 games that I feel deserve a sequel from Nintendo. So let's go ahead and get this party started. No particular order, but boom, number 5, FZero. FZero first came out for the Super Nintendo back in 1990. There was several sequels. There's actually more sequels to F-Zero than any other game I'm talking about on this list today. But there was a sequel for the Nintendo 64, F-Zero X. There's some Japanese exclusive stuff as well. BS F-Zero Grand Prix for the Super Nintendo. The expansion kit for F-Zero X on the Nintendo 64. And then we also had some Game Boy Advance games as well. Maximum Velocity, GX. There was an arcade game as well. AX. Who remembers that? Back in 2003. And then the final games that came out was GP Legend and Climax. GP Legend came out in 2003 for the Game Boy Advance, and then Climax in 2004 in Japan. It has been 16 years, if not longer, depending upon where you are in the world, since we got a new F-Zero game. I've always enjoyed these games. They just got better with time, I believe. Every sequel after it, for the most part, just felt better. I mean, I really dig the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube versions, and then the Game Boy Advance ones kind of brought it back to the Super Nintendo era. But those games were amazing. The speed, the action, they were just great games. Futuristic racers. It definitely deserves a sequel. It's been 16 plus years. Coming in at number 4, another one of my personal favorites of all time. This game started out on Game Boy, and that is Waverace. I originally played Waverace in the Game Boy, and it was kind of a sluggish, wonky game, and I never thought they would continue on with it, but they did. Waverace 64, my God, who remembers Waverace 64? The water, just how everything looked. It was a beautiful game. I remember just chilling in Dolphin Park in the training mode, just racing around, just because the game was so amazing to look at that time, back in 1996 when the game released. We eventually did get a sequel for the GameCube, which was Waverace Blue Storm, and that continued on with what the Nintendo 64 had done. Another beautiful game. The speed, just how everything looked, and it's a racing game. I know the first 2 games we talked about were racing games, but man, Waverace is just an amazing game that has not been touched in 19 years. The last game that came out on the GameCube was in 2001, which was Blue Storm. We deserve another Waverace. Waverace deserves another release, in my opinion. It's a game that I just hold really near and dear to my heart. Enjoyed at least 2 of the 3 titles. The one on the Game Boy was, it was okay back in the day. You had to really get used to it. But definitely the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube one, those are still in my rotation of games that I play all the damn time because they're just so much fun. You know, that arcade racing action out in the water. I don't know, it calms me for some reason. I really dig it. I think Waverace really deserves another go. I mean, why not? I think some of these games that we're talking about today, unfortunately, this is just my opinion, but I feel like a lot of these games that I'm talking about, they kind of got buried in that Nintendo started becoming a really big gimmick company with like the Nintendo Wii. That's why these games, you didn't see any of these games we're talking about today on the Wii, at least not sequels anyway, maybe ports on the Virtual Console. But the system became a gimmick, and then everything after is, you know, there's gimmicks to it. And I think some of these games just, Nintendo didn't see a way to incorporate these gimmicks to play these games. So that's why they just didn't bother with them. And that's unfortunate in my opinion. I mean, now we have the Nintendo Switch. Does the Nintendo Switch have some gimmicks to it? Sure, it does. But it's not forced on you. So they could still make these games and put brand new versions on the Nintendo Switch and just, bring them back to life. I really do feel these games deserve it. Coming in at number 3, Pilotwings. My God, it has been a while since we got a Pilotwings game. First came out in 1990 on the Super Nintendo. We did get a sequel eventually on the Nintendo 64 at launch, 1996. And both of these games on the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64, I really dig this style of game. You have different kind of, vehicles or aircraft that you could use, and it's just objective based, scoring points. It's not too serious. Just go with the flow. Very relaxing. The music in both of these games were amazing to me. The Nintendo 64 game was one that I was extremely hooked on when it first came out. The visuals are kind of a little bit of a muddy mess nowadays going back to the game, but it's still one I really enjoy. And I feel it deserves better than the sequel that we eventually did get, which was Pilotwings Resort on the Nintendo 3DS. I played the game, I still own the game on the 3DS, but it just didn't feel like Pilotwings to me. And it really, just bring back the simplicity, just the objective-based, earning points to get licenses and moving on up and earning medals. Just make a game that's simple like that with, better visuals, more objectives and whatnot. I really do feel Pilotwings deserves to have a new life on a new console. It's been such a long time. 9 years since Pilotwings Resort came out, and like I said, it's my least favorite one out of the 3 games that have been released. But, going back, 1996 for Pilotwings 64, it's been a long time. Bring it back, Nintendo, let's do it. Number 2 on my list here, like I said, these games are not necessarily in any particular order, but 1080 Snowboarding. 1080 Snowboarding came out for the Nintendo 64 back in 1998. Another racer on the list. There's kind of a trend here, I guess, but it was just different. It was a snowboarding game. Took a little getting used to. For me, I still try to play these games, to this day, and 1080 Snowboarding is one that, I really have to get readjusted to. But once you get reacclimated to the controls and how everything works, the game is amazing. We eventually got a sequel in 2003 for the GameCube. Another game where the last thing was on the GameCube. It's just crazy. Pretty much Waverace, the last one was on GameCube. As far as consoles go, FZero, the last one was on GameCube. We did get an arcade and Game Boy Advance games, but this is another one of those where the last time it was on a home console was on the GameCube. I think that's a little ridiculous. It kind of goes with what I was saying with the gimmick aspect that maybe Nintendo couldn't bring these games to, the Wii or the Wii U at the time because they couldn't figure out a way to incorporate gimmicks to make these sell to people. I still think a lot of people just want some regular action games without motion control, without gimmicks, without, not forced on you anyway. Sure, if you want, have some of that on the side there if people want to use it, but put these games, make new versions of them, not remasters. Remasters are fine. I want to see new games of these franchises brought to the Nintendo Switch. 1080 Avalanche on the GameCube back in 2003 was an awesome addition to the 2 games that were released. Definitely deserves another go. Bring it, Nintendo. We're waiting, right? Now, number 1 on my list. This is a little bit of a different one because I'm sure some people could argue with me on this, but man, I know I could have thought of a few other ones, but this one has always been in my mind, and that is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars for the Super Nintendo, released back in 1996. And holy crap, was this an awesome game. Developed by Squaresoft, partnered with Nintendo. Super Mario, a role-playing game, right? Yeah, we have had a ton of different Mario role-playing games or, types of role-playing games since then. The different Paper Mario games. We have the new one coming out, the Origami King or whatever it's called. We had the Mario and Luigi games on the handhelds. But a game where Square Enix, no longer Squaresoft. I miss that name, Squaresoft. But a game that a veteran role-playing game developer partners with Nintendo and makes a role-playing game with their characters. That was amazing at the time. They need to make another one in the same style. And like I said, some people could argue with me, well, these other role-playing type games, Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi, that scratches the itch. Not for me. It just does not. Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars in the Super Nintendo was such a unique game, a beautiful looking game, the way the graphics were rendered, the characters. Everybody loves Malo and Gino, right? Bring them back. Make a direct sequel to this game in the same world, similar graphic style. I mean, why not? You don't have to go crazy with the graphics. You could just do something very similar and maintain that style from back in '96, but just up it, up your game, make it even more beautiful, right? To, be relevant on current consoles anyway, or the Nintendo Switch. But the game was just so much fun where these other games just haven't felt the same to me. I seriously tried, but it never worked. If Square and Nintendo were to get back together and make a sequel to Mario RPG, I think that would be amazing, and plenty of people would definitely be for it. So guys, that was my list. Top 5 games that I feel, this is my personal opinion, that I feel deserve a sequel on a Nintendo console. I mean, these are all Nintendo franchises, right? I'm sure there's tons of other games you could think of out there for other consoles, but let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What games do you think should be brought back? Doesn't matter the console, it could be Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. Just franchises that have been lost to time for whatever reason that you feel deserves to be brought back. Let me know down in the comments below. Really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you already are subscribed, hit that notification bell. That's what really helps my channel out, is you guys watching, commenting, and hitting that like button. Helps me continue doing what I'm doing. So hey, really do appreciate it. And with that said, I will catch you guys next time. Peace out, bye-bye, thumb butt, and boom. Bye.